trade war going on between Canada and the United States. And Europe's involved in it too, and many other countries. Mexico, of course, as well too. And there's more that meets the eye. This trade war is not just about economics. It's not just about a game of seeing who's stronger than the other. There are many other things going on behind the scenes. And, well, I wrote a little list of talking points to discuss. And the first point on the list is Trudeau insulting Trump. Now, I know that probably sounds a bit egotistical of someone to start a trade war over someone insulting the president, but that's not really what it's about. It's not about Trudeau insulting Trump personally. It's about the fact that Trudeau is essentially giving off an image that he can get away with insulting the president. It's all about the imagery of the Canadian Prime Minister in a position of no strength is making fun of someone in a position of absolute or near absolute strength. And Trump wouldn't care if Trudeau were saying these things if Trump was simply a senator or a congressman or simply just a businessman like back in the day. But the fact that he's the president, it bothers him on another level because it's psychological for a lot of, not really his support base, but the people inside government who support Trump. If your neighbors, the people who are at your mercy militarily, are making fun of you, then that doesn't look good for the elements within the government who are trying to weed out the elements inside the deep state and other elements of the broader form of the US government and its extensions. It's not good for them to see that other leaders can push the president around, especially Trump, who doesn't just put up the image, but he really is a strong man, and that's a good thing. And the second point gets a little bit more specific. The CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is owned by the federal government, and taxpayers subsidize it by I think it's like $1.6 billion in taxes that Canadians pay to keep this hunk of crap alive. And essentially every single night they're just railing on about Trump, trying to say terrible things. The only time I catch a glimpse of it is when people post videos of ridiculous news clips where they're losing their minds on the CBC, going all crazy about Trump, and it's kind of funny sometimes to just see the hysteria going on at the CBC. But then also sometimes you just you just see a glimpse of it if you're somewhere and the CBC is just playing or something, right? So, it's interesting to watch them go crazy over Trump. And the reason why that matters is because at any moment, and a lot of people don't realize this, but at any moment Trudeau can pick up the phone, talk to the CBC and say, cut the crap, stop insulting Trump, right? And Trump supporters in America need to understand this, that we have a state-funded news broadcaster, not like, the little payments that, some news agencies in the United States get from the federal government, like, subsidies and stuff. It's not like that. No, this is an actual state broadcaster, meaning all of their money and all of their directions, other than, ads that sometimes roll in their intermissions, all their money comes from the taxpayer, and all their directives come from the government because it is a branch of the government. And Trudeau can pick up the phone and say, stop saying bad things about Trump, but he doesn't. And so Trump looks at that, or maybe he hasn't seen that. I'm sure he's seen some clips. But the point is, Trump knows that Trudeau has a news agency that is literally there railing against the president, and Trudeau could easily just tell them, cut the crap, and yet he doesn't. He encourages them to continue to rail against Trump. If he wasn't encouraging them to do so, then they probably wouldn't do so. A lot of these talking points that they have on the CBC don't seem like just like a typical kind of liberal hysteria. There is a lot of hysteria, but it also seems like it's very pinpointed and contrived and, well, controlled. It literally seems like they're reading off the teleprompter, which they are. They are reading off a teleprompter. They obviously are reading off teleprompters. But the point is that it doesn't seem like they're always the ones writing their own scripts. It seems like they're kind of just there like, oh, well, yeah, Trump this, and, you can see the haze in their eyes at sometimes. They don't really understand what, even they're saying. And that's my second point, is that Trudeau at any moment could tell the CBC, cut the crap and stop saying bad things about Trump, and of course, he doesn't. The third point is Trudeau associates very openly with people who are extremely anti-Trump. And what I mean by this is he associates with people who not only dislike Trump, but openly talk about getting rid of Trump. Trudeau has met with George Soros a countless number of times. And on top of all that, he has a particular environmental minister in his cabinet, Trudeau's cabinet, who has a husband who, if you go to his Twitter, I think his Twitter is Scott Gilmore, search him up. You go to his Twitter, and the past few days, everything he's been posting are literal plans on how to invade the United States. I'm literally not even kidding. I'll post a link to his Twitter in the description below. Just take a look at it. It's insane to say the least. And here's someone who, has dinners with Trudeau. He sits down with Trudeau, and openly on his Twitter, he's discussing invasion plans of the United States. I mean, it's hilarious. Canada cannot invade the United States, but it's interesting that Trudeau has people in his entourage, in his circles, that are openly discussing a coup against the president. And this guy talks about, we'll march in the troops and Americans will be waving Canadian flags and they'll be all happy. And it's like, it's literally reading something out of from a crazy person. And that's who Trudeau associates with. And that's who, he's the husband of Trudeau's environmental minister, which should tell you a lot. And if Trudeau has people like that in his circle talking about things like that, and here's where it gets creepy. You really have to check this guy's Twitter. It doesn't sound like he's just saying these things out of nowhere. It's very in synchronization with statements that Trudeau makes. Trudeau makes a statement about Trump, and then this guy starts posting things on Twitter. And there's other people who are associated with Trudeau who are posting very strange things at the same time as well, too. And at first glance, you look at it and you're thinking, well, this is just hysteria. And then you look at it and you're like, but there's other people tweeting the same thing who are close to Trudeau. And this guy's discussing it in a very specific and detailed way. So I'll let you, be the judge of that. Now, of course, Canada can never invade the United States. That is ridiculous. But the fact that here's someone in Trudeau's entourage that's openly talking about a coup against the president should make you scratch your head and wonder who else in Trudeau's entourage is discussing those types of things. And is Trudeau himself hearing out these ideas? I'll let you decide. And the fourth point is, well, this one is very much goes in with the rest of it, is there's rumors going around. I mean, there's been rumors of this for quite a while, going all the way back to the beginning of Trump's campaign, is that the deep state is now in a position where they can't really undermine the president directly, so they have to do it indirectly. Donald Trump is dealing with MS-13, which is cutting out a lot of drug trafficking. He's dealing with the border. The wall is already being built. So a lot of people who want to spread around the memes that he hasn't started building the wall, simply not true. He's already started building the wall in California. I'm pretty sure that started like 2 months ago or something. So it's not being built fast enough. We can all agree on that. But it is being built. And essentially what that's doing is, we all know that the deep state funds all their secret operations with, of course, drug money and trafficking and things like that. Everyone knows that. And essentially, he's cutting off their funding by simply closing the border. This is why they're going hysterical over the border. Why is it that the Democrats care more about illegal immigrants than they do about their own voter base, like people in the black community? Why is it they care about illegal immigrants more? And a lot of people think, oh, well, they're looking for more votes, and yeah, that's true. But it's more than that. It's because if the border closes, then the deep state operations, all their funding just goes kaput. There's no more funding at that point. They have to go to something else. And the rumor is that they're going to the Canadian government. So essentially, the rumor has it that the Canadian deep state is now funding the American deep state's black operations. Sorry. And it's all just rumors for now, but it's very interesting how the dots do connect, and the rumors seem to fit pretty well. But then again, it could all just be rumors. If it came true that the Canadian government was funding anti-Trump campaigns or working with informants inside of Donald Trump's campaign on any level, or pro-Trump organizations, whether in the United States or Canada or wherever, then that would be an act of war against the United States, which brings me to my final point. Trump did not make comments about Canadians burning down the White House for no reason. I believe that he made those comments out of a hint, hint, nudge, nudge, telling Trudeau that he is fully aware of what Canada has been doing to undermine the President of the United States. Which brings me back to the rumors. Why would Trump say something like that if the rumors are just nonsense? The rumors of Canada funding the undermining of Trump's presidency. Now, of course, we know the Democrats are behind all this, but the point I'm trying to make is that if the Democrats and the deep state are running out of funds because MS-13 is being rounded up and other gangs are being deported who, of course, pay tribute, I guess you could say, to the deep state, because every police officer in every single city in America, if you sat down with them and said, all right, name all the criminals in your neighborhood, name all the criminals in your city, they could sit down and tell you all the criminals, and then you ask, well, why aren't you arresting them? And they'll give you the straight up answer. We can't. We're not allowed to. We're being told not to. So everyone knows that these criminals are being protected. Everyone knows that many of these criminals are under contract to sell drugs and to traffic people. And it'd be interesting if it came out that since all this trafficking and all this drug trafficking and human trafficking is starting to be clamped down on, that the funding is going down for the deep state, and therefore they're looking to outside sources, Canada being the most obvious. And the last thing is this. Trump said that Canada is a national security threat. Why would he say that if it's just, wishy-washy nonsense? Well, because it's not. Canada is importing people into this country. And when I mean people into this country, I'm not talking about regular everyday immigrants who just want to come and work. I'm talking about the returning fighters from Syria, and they're welcoming in these fighters from Syria. It's one thing to take in a couple of refugees and be like, oh, there's a family, there's some kids, whatever. But if you take in people who are admitted fighters, they've admitted to it, that they fought for all these groups, you have to scratch your head and think, why? Why are they bringing them in? Well, maybe it's because the deep state has bigger plans. Let's hope not. But the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, Canada really does pose a national security threat to the United States. And people in America need to begin to realize, and need to begin to come to an understanding that the days of allowing rogue regimes in foreign countries close to America might have to come to a close. The days of allowing rogue factions within their own government, of working with these rogue regimes, should probably come to an end. If it were to come out that the Canadian government were complicit in some sort of a plot to undermine the President of the United States, what do you think Donald Trump would do? What do you think he should do? When Trump went to the G7 meeting, he arrived in his beautiful helicopter, And when he got there, he got off and he shook everyone's hand. He was all nice and trying to be nice. And then once he flew off and he was on Air Force One, then Trudeau comes out and starts insulting him or starts saying all these bad things about him. Be very interesting to see what happens next. As we all know the history of what happens to people who undermine the United States. Foreign leaders who are friends with various different countries that are not friends of the United States. We all know what happens to leaders who do things they're not supposed to do. Now, let's just hope this is all just rumors, and let's hope that Trudeau loses the next election. Let's hope for the best. But always keep in mind that there are crazier things at play than what simply meets the eye. Stay peaceful, stay positive, stay political. God bless. Stay safe. Remember that.